Hey, welcome to everyone that's joining so far. If you can hear me, if you're here and you can hear me and see me, okay, if you could just drop something in the chat box, that would be awesome. Thank you. Hi, Terry. Hey, Wanda. Hi, Colette. Hi, Roy. All right, just making a couple notes here for myself before launch. All right, so let's see. Hey, while you're joining us, why don't you kind of put in who you are, where you're from? Well, we can see who you are, but where you're from, and what the temp is. And out of curiosity, have you tried telehealth yet? Have you tried the telehealth program available through our insurance if you are on our insurance? I'd be curious just to know if anyone's tried that since. And we're just going to give a couple more minutes for people to drop in. Hope everybody's doing good. All right. Hold on one second. Just doing some last minute edits as everyone's coming in. We'll launch very soon. Hmm. Okay, where are we? There we go. Okay, cool. All right, so we're getting some mass here. Let's keep it going. What's the temperatures out there? How's in Ithaca, Billy Joe? Oh, 50. That's cool. Wow, 72 in Martin. You guys are winning, clearly. Precious has used the telehealth even when she's traveled. That's awesome. Okay, hold on one second. I'll be right back. Okay. All right, so it's 2:35. Let's get going. We know other people will join us when they're able to, but we might as well get started. Just want to welcome everybody to, I think this is our third or fourth town hall, which is great. And I really appreciate all the engagement. I appreciate the encouragement. People seem to be liking this format. So we're going to keep it going. And hopefully it'll meet needs, and if it can be changed in any way, if you think it could be improved upon at all, please let me know. Send an email to myself, Ryan, Sandra, someone on the leadership team, and we'll take that into account because we want this to be meaningful for you all, for sure. I want to start as we did last week, just acknowledging the latest challenges that we're facing as an organization since we last got together last Friday. Unfortunately, we have had, it looks like 3 people pass away since our last town hall meeting, if I have my numbers correctly. We had 2 individuals in Tennessee. One was from Martin, and one was a resident in Harlan Morris. And I had sent out an email that one was also a mother of Sherry Fisher there, who is one of the administrators at Harlan Morris. And then we also this past week had an individual that we had worked with in day program in DC when we were active with day programming at the time, pass away from COVID, which, obviously all of these are very tragic losses. And we send our thoughts and prayers out and our heartfelt just sympathies to the families and certainly to the team members that have worked with them. We also are seeing an increase in COVID cases for people we support and our team members, particularly here in DC, and then also recently this week in Virginia. And so our numbers are probably combined between people we support and our team members, probably between 15 and 20 at this point in time. And so we're really hoping to get past peak as soon as possible. I believe we have 3 people that we support that are hospitalized at this point in time. And our teams are doing all they can in the midst of this. And then we have Harlan Morris that's sheltering in place still. And then we also now have 28 locations in DC that are sheltering in place. So trying times for sure. And I want to thank all the volunteer staff that are doing this hard work right now and sheltering in place. And just you're going above and beyond. You are truly fulfilling our mission and being amazing ambassadors. And I just am very grateful. We're all very grateful for what you're doing. So right now, just in the midst of everything happening, I was hoping that we could just take another moment of silence and reflection just to remember those we've lost, as well as those who are serving on our front lines and are going above and beyond sheltering in place. So let's just take that moment now. Okay, thank you for doing that. And sorry about this. I am going to just take my sweater off because I'm starting to get a little warm and a little overheated. So hold on a second. All right. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So here where we are. In addition to just saying thank you to those that are sheltering in place, and that's got to just be a tremendous number of staff doing that. I would guess we're somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 40 to 50, 55 staff that are sheltering in place across the entire organization, which is just incredible and really heroic. I also want to recognize our administrative professionals. We have a number of state office managers and those that function in that role as administrators across the organization. And I just want to say thank you. You are the glue that keeps us all together. You're working often behind the scenes. You're keeping us on point and on time. This week, we celebrated Administrative Professional Day, and we just wanted to tip our hats off and just thank you all for your hard work and your support of the mission of St. John's. So just thank you so much. And please give shout outs to them. They deserve it tremendously. So please fill that chat box up there and recognize those in your area that are making a difference as administrative professionals. And then I also just want to keep you up to date, as always, on additional resources that are available to you here at St. John's. First of all, be sure to be checking out sjcs.org/ staff updates. That's sjcs.org/staff updates. And we'll get that in the box for you. We are constantly updating the information. First of all, we take these recordings, we put them up there so people that can't be with us today, team members that aren't able to stop what they're doing and working and check this out, are able to go and check it out at a later time so they can stay up to date. But then we also have a lot of resources and postings up there. And we do that state by state as well, specific to you. So be sure to check that out. And a couple of things you'll see changing in the next day or two up there is we want to make sure that we're promoting for those that have our health insurance. Use the telehealth. It's there. It's available. We certainly want to see that increase in usage. And it's a great resource for you, especially during these times. Practically every provider has gone to this format. And so now's a great time for you to use that and get accustomed to that if necessary. And then also Connect Care 3 is a partner of ours through our Care First administrators as well as our Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. And they're an additional resource. They can help answer questions for you about your coverage. They can give you insight into those benefits you have for health and dental and those things. And they also have a lot of FAQs themselves and additional resources and webinars. And we're going to be promoting more of these. But if you go on to ADP, you go on to staff updates, you'll be able to learn more about what they have to offer and how you can take full advantage of your plan. I've used the Connect Care 3, so it is a good resource that's available to you. And I want to make sure that those that are on our plan are maximizing that. And then just to let you know, because we know that this is a trying time that everybody is going through in some way, shape, or form, we want you to know that we're in the process of working with our partners to provide a wellness plan that will focus primarily on self-care during this time. So whether that's diet, exercise, the potential effects of depression, stress management, all of those things are what we want to be working on in helping you in order to manage through this crisis and certainly this tumultuous time with COVID. So be on the lookout for that. Rich and the team will be promoting more material on that. That'll also be put on ADP as well as staff updates, but check that out as well. So just want to make sure that you are fully aware of how we're trying to communicate to you and the various resources we're trying to make available to you during this time. And then we did have one question come in through staffing.questions@sjcs.org or staff.questions@sjcs.org. I think Ryan will put in the correct URL there, or correct email address. The question was that staff members are asking about their status since they're not working during the 2-week shut-in. They know they can't use their leave. What's the plan? Will their benefits be affected? I need to actually pull all of that apart. And so I want to be careful not to give incorrect information here. Rich may be watching and may know, he is watching, he may know the specific answer to that and be able to weigh in the chat box. But otherwise, we're going to have to follow up with that question, and we'll put that answer up on the staff updates part of the website, okay? But they're asking about their status since they've not been working during the 2 to 3 week shut-in. They know they can't use their leave. What's the plan? Will their benefits be affected? So we will follow up with that and get that answer to you. I apologize, I'm not able to answer that right off the top of my head. That just came in, and I don't know if I fully understand the question. I'm assuming this is someone that might be furloughed, but I don't know for sure. So I just want to get more information before answering that. And I will also touch on this question at next Friday's town hall as well. So we'll follow up on the staff updates page, and then we will also follow up at next Friday's town hall. Additional program updates that I just want to touch base on. First of all, we're hoping for good news with Harlan Morris. They have been sheltering in place since April 2nd, so almost an entire month. And up until last week, they had a run where basically no one had come in or left. So that is really positive. They went something like 17, 18, 19 days with nobody leaving and nobody coming into the facility. And through that process, we had no one that was showing any symptoms of the coronavirus. So that's a positive thing. However, due to a medical emergency, we did have some first responders that had to come into the building. Remarkably enough, when they came in, and this was a serious emergency, unfortunately, and we had no idea why this was the case. They were not wearing any PPE. And so there is a risk of transmission that we're concerned about for team members that may have come in contact with these first responders and or the residents here in Harlan Morris. So we are talking to the health department there, and we are looking to get testing done for all the residents as well as all of our team members. And should those tests come back in a good way, then our hope is that at the end of April, we'll be able to lift the shelter in place at Harlan Morris. So that's what we're hoping for and working towards. Certainly, the emergency came out of nowhere and was something that was incredibly serious and needed their first responders to be there. Even the health department, honestly, was stunned that they showed up without PPE, given their level of exposure just in their work. Fortunately, it is a smaller community, so we're hoping that the chances are lower of exposure or transmission. But I just want to give you an update on that. And again, we are all very grateful to the staff at Harlan Morris that are sheltering in place through this time. And our hope is to be able to release that as soon as possible. And I see for the person that asked the question about what the effects of benefits, Rich is asking for more information. So he's active in the mailbox, in the chat box right now. Also good news at the Ithaca shelter and homeless services up there is that they are doing very well managing through this ordeal. And they've had to restrict, obviously put heavy restrictions in place for the day services. They are helping people individually one at a time. And they are also working on still coordinating shelter and only keeping those that have highest level of need in the shelter itself. They've had 7 people tested, I believe, or something like 7 to 10 people tested, 3 that were clients that we support, and then I believe 6 or 7 staff, and all of those tests have come back negative for COVID. So that's very positive. The restrictions and social distancing that they're putting in place is working, and yet they're still able to meet the critical needs of the individuals experiencing homelessness and hunger there in Ithaca. So they're doing great, and keep them in your thoughts. And then also in Virginia, Delaware, and Tennessee, all of these areas seem to be holding up pretty well at this point. There's been a couple scares. But fortunately, we haven't, to my knowledge, seen any individuals we support test positive in those locations yet. We have had a couple staff this week recently test positive in Virginia, and our thoughts and prayers are with them, certainly. But so far, so good in Virginia, Delaware, and Tennessee, and we're hoping to be able to, keep that going. Obviously, so much of that is out of our control. I did an interview with Steve Sims, our director of nursing here in DC, for Champions in the Crisis, and they are working around the clock, him and his team of nurses, to support the direct support professionals and just trying to keep people as safe as possible. But there's so much variability and so many variables in the equation that it's so difficult to ensure complete safety. But I just, again, can't stress enough how great our team is working across the entire organization and how meticulously they're following protocols and how careful they are being in risking exposure to individuals we support in any of our programs. And it just says so much to, I think, the quality level of care that we have been providing for a very, very long time. And then our ability to adapt quickly in an environment like this, in an ordeal like this, to be able to meet the needs of the people that we're supporting. So hang in there. We are doing the very best that we can. Want to keep you updated on what's happening on the marketing and fundraising front. So today is Frontline Friday. And so if you've checked out Facebook at 2 o'clock, we just put up Frontline Friday. This week is Leisha Payne. So she is in the homeless shelter in Ithaca. And we just congratulate her for being our Frontline Friday champion in the crisis, champion during COVID-19. And we thank her for being on the front line, even now, working hard to keep people safe and to meet their needs in Ithaca. So thank you, Leisha, for all that you're doing. And there's more there. I'm going to let you read more about Alicia. There's some great info on her on the Facebook post, so be sure to check that out. Get back to my notes here. Also, the next Champions in the Crisis video goes up on the website and on social on Monday. And this week, we are actually going to be highlighting the Ithaca Homeless Services, and Roy Murdaugh is my interview guest for the week. And so be sure to check that out. We got about a 10-minute interview with Roy. He will tell you the ins and outs of what it's like to have to manage and how the team is managing during this time, during COVID, to keep people safe, as well as to meet those critical needs that they have. So check that out. And then the following Monday, it'll be Steve Sims, our Director of Nursing here in DC. Now, I've got a big announcement that's very exciting, and we are putting together a campaign for Giving Tuesday Now. And so this is meant to basically draw attention, awareness, and raise much needed funds. It's a global effort to raise funds for nonprofits that are struggling through this time of COVID and trying to still meet their mission and help people that they support. And we are participating. So super excited to announce it. May 5th is Giving Tuesday Now. We have a $75,000 goal that we are going to try to raise and hit by June 5th. So we kick it off on Giving Tuesday Now on May 5th, and then it'll be going through until June 5th. And our goal is to raise $75,000, which is, I'll be completely honest, that is a large goal for us. We haven't had that kind of fundraising goal out there in front of us before, and yet the need is incredibly great right now. And we do have some help to get this jump started. The Founders Board Emergency Grant is going to be used as a 2-to-1 match. So if you think about that, for every $100 that is given, that's essentially $300. It's tripled, so because of the 2-to-1 match. And so that can go farther and faster. And we have the potential for raising that $225,000 in total if we hit the 75,000 mark. So our goal is to raise the 75,000 by leveraging the 2-to-1 match made available through the Founders Board. And so every gift will essentially be tripled. So $1 equals $3, $10 equals $30, $100 equals $300, and on and on and on. So we need your help. And how can you help? This is all digital. So please share all social media that we have to your network through your different platforms on hashtag Giving Tuesday Now and through the end of the campaign. Okay, so we'll be posting frequently through that time period. We'll launch it on May 5th. Hashtag Giving Tuesday Now. Please share all the posts within your platforms and your networks and spread the word. And then on hashtag Giving Tuesday Now, May 5th, share a St. John's post, but also share a personal note about why you work at St. John's and why our work is so important right now. People give to people. And so for them to know that not just do you work with St. John's, but the motivation why you do that, and why you love the people we support makes a huge difference. So please be a little vulnerable and share a little bit about why you choose to work at St. John's, why you choose our mission, and why you choose to care for the people we support on Giving Tuesday Now, May 5th. And then think of other people who could help promote the campaign and ask them to help by sharing with their social media networks as well. So spread the word. And then just bear in mind, it's going to take all of us pushing towards this goal. $75,000 goal is a huge target for us. We have a month to do it. We're going to leverage the momentum of the Founders Board grant and their 2-to-1 match. And we are going to leverage hashtag Giving Tuesday Now. And it's going to be exciting to see. So please share, recruit, and tell a story. All of those things will help us hit that goal. And I'm just checking the box here just to see the chat that's going on. Cool. All right. So also just want to give a finance update. So we continue to plot our way through this very carefully. As you know, we lost about 25% of our revenue when we had to suspend services. And in that, we had to make some very critical, quick reductions in force and expenses. And so we saw teammates have to be furloughed or laid off. And we continue to look at what potential restructuring may still have to be out on the horizon. The leadership team is diligently looking at what can we do to get through this time and to get on the other side. We did receive some good news in the sense that it looks like we are going to receive one of our Small Business Administration PPP loans through Tennessee, and that's for about $1.6 million. So that's definitely significant. We are learning the ins and outs of how that can be spent. It's not fully clear yet. The guidelines are broad. We know that we can direct that towards retaining positions. We want to try to do that. We know there's some expenses that we can use it for, but before we receive the funding and spend those dollars, we'll certainly be reviewing the ins and outs of that. And then we may have gotten approved for our loan through Virginia as well. So we're on the lookout for that, and we're awaiting word on our DC application too. So again, I'm cautiously optimistic. We haven't seen any dollars drop into any accounts yet. And as you probably all know, now we're all experts or have heard PPP probably a million times at this point in time through all of the media coverage that is going along with the program. It's certainly a helpful program. We're hoping to be able to participate fully in it. We seem to have some good news at the front end. It certainly will be an enormous help to us if we receive it. I hope that this time next week I'll have definitive positive news to be able to give you on that front. But so far it looks like the loan for Tennessee is going to drop, and we're hoping that the others will as well. Again, it is a loan. There are elements of the loan that can be converted into a grant. We want to maximize that piece of it. But there's still so much unknowns about it. So we're working with legal counsel and our finance committee just to make sure that we understand and have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed. And more to come on that. We also are waiting to hear on our emergency injury disaster loan through the SBA. They make these things very easy to either remember but not say. So the EIDL is a disaster loan that's made available for up to $2 million. That's the payback on that is much shorter, about 25 years, and we're hoping to be able to see that come through as well. We did receive a $10,000 deposit into our account. That's not guaranteed that the loan is going to be received. That's something that they do automatically. Fortunately, we don't have to repay the $10,000, which is good. So in essence, it's a grant, but it doesn't guarantee that we get the remainder of the $2 million. So George has been working hard on that front, and we'll keep you posted. Again, I'm hoping for good news in the coming weeks on that. And otherwise, we're doing our very best to manage payables. We've been working with our vendors and our business partners to try to push out and defer where appropriate and where we can. We're trying to take advantage of everything available to us through the CARES Act. Some of that gets limited once we receive the PPP loan. So there's all these weirdly connected things that are in and out that we just have to make sure that we understand to fully maximize. And then we've got a small team of grant writers that we've contracted with that are out looking for grants as well. So far, we've received one for $5,000 in Virginia to go towards PPP, PPE, and other supplies. So that's good news. And then we're constantly looking for those other grants and have active applications in front of foundations. As you can imagine, they're very overwhelmed right now. So it's probably going to take them a little longer than it normally would to get responses out. But we are in the hunt for those. And if you happen to come up with any, if you happen to, in your work, in your lives, see any funding sources that you think we might want to consider, please send those along to the leadership team. We will definitely research those actively and see if we qualify and what we can do. So with all that said, I just want to kind of step back as I get into kind of the last piece of our meeting today. And I want to talk about, living in the tension of the here and the not yet, because that's kind of where we are right now, right? We're starting to hear about states that are reopening or are making plans to reopen. For example, in Tennessee, some elements of Tennessee could be open by Monday. And I'm sure that will continue to grow. We've heard of other states that are adjusting dates as well. So, we're continuing to keep an eye on that to try to understand the implication of that. And I know that the tendency when you start, seeing these reports is to start wondering, when are we going to go back to normal? And that's why I just, again, want to really talk about this idea of living in the tension of the here and the not yet. Because as we begin to hear about states reopening, I want to manage expectations with you all. And I want to, with the leadership team and the board, make sure that we are positioned as well as possible for the future and the potential of reopening. So I just want to share some working assumptions that I have right now with the leadership team. And these are not fully codified, they're not set in stone, they're assumptions, okay? So they're guidelines, they're assumptions for us to think through, and they're like a lens by which we can filter information through, okay? So when you see a report somewhere, these are some of the bullets you can think of in terms of how I might be thinking or how the leadership team might be thinking along with the board. First of all, we still don't fully understand how we have been or how we are being impacted. I mean, I know that might sound a little silly, but some of this has happened so fast. If you think of all the activity that has happened in such a short period of time, about 6 weeks or so, there's a lot that's happened. That first week or two was like a blur. Every day was like a week, and it was just like constant activity, inundated with new information. We were learning. It's like it's you're racing to catch up, right, on what just happened. And it was like like I said before, it's like an asteroid hitting our country, and all of a sudden it's just huge fallout. And so, we're a few weeks into this now. We have more and better information, but we are still analyzing how we're being impacted. There is data that we have on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. We certainly know from a health standpoint, people that are getting tested, people that are showing symptoms, whether tests are coming back positive or negative. So we're gaining that information. But there's always a lag in our information, right? And that's kind of something that we know from our own lives. And so that's happening. So a lot of our financial information is at least a week to 2 weeks behind. So as we build forecasts, we look regularly, multiple times a week, at a cash flow and liquidity report that Sherry and her team work hard to pull together and try to be as accurate as possible. And that takes our payables and all the bills that we owe, and it drops them in on their due dates. And it also takes the payments we receive from the different sources and it drops them in on anticipated due dates. And it puts placeholders based on what we have received in the past, what we currently are receiving now. And it kind of helps us inform our decisions. But there's still a lag in getting that information. When you look at the restructuring that we've done, there's still going to be a lag in getting the information about how that's going to impact our payroll costs, especially when you look at the same situation where you start projecting ahead and we've got increased overtime costs, increased staffing costs in some ways, because we have more people sheltering in place now. So I say this just to kind of say to you, we still don't fully understand the impact that this has had financially on us. And we need time to get a sense of where we are, get our legs under us, and before we start to kind of make decisions about reopening, okay? We're not even at the peak of the virus in some locations. And so there's still a lot of analysis and learning that has to happen, all right? So as much as I'm excited to see the potential of one day seeing things in our country potentially go back to normal, I'm still very cautious relative to how quickly we will respond to that, because we don't know even how we've been impacted yet. And then even after we peak, until a good vaccine exists, COVID-19 is going to remain a threat to the people we support and St. John's as a whole. And the majority of the people we support are at high risk of serious illness or death from the coronavirus. So these are working assumptions that myself and the leadership team and the board have. And then you add to that the health and safety and well-being of the people we support and our team members, along with our overall financial health and viability as an organization, are our top priorities. So those are our top goals. Keep the people we support safe, keep our team members safe, and then try to remain viable as an organization. And so those are our top priorities. So these are kind of the assumptions, the working assumptions that we're thinking about as we're going through this process and this crisis. And so this is what you should expect from us. This is what I hope that you will expect from us. First of all, we will try to do our very best at communicating. I know that we are not perfect, and there are times that we drop the ball and we don't get messages across the way we should or in as timely a fashion as we should. But I do hope that you see our intent is to do that, and we are trying to be as communicative and as transparent as possible through this process. And we will continue to do that. We are also going to be very conservative. Because again, the people that we support are at the highest risk. And if you look at the guidelines that are out there with the CDC, places like nursing homes and places that deal with individuals that are at high risk or medical acute conditions are like the last phase of quote unquote reopening and going back to normal. So we are going to be incredibly conservative. We have to analyze where we are, and this is happening right now as we speak. The leadership team is actively doing that. We have to anticipate possible risks in the future and take proactive action to mitigate that. We know that there's a strong likelihood that the coronavirus will come back in another wave. And we also know that that could be coupled with the normal seasonal flu. So as we look forward, we have to anticipate how could that potentially impact us negatively? And we need to prepare for that, both from a health and safety standpoint, as well as from a financial standpoint. And so that's what you should expect us to do is be looking forward and be anticipating risks and trying to think about what can we do proactively now or during this period in order to reduce those risks on both health and safety for people we support and our team members, as well as for our financial viability. We will continue to apply strict social distancing restrictions, and the leadership team will thoughtfully and methodically ease those restrictions as we deem it safe and prudent to do so. So, just as an example, all right, I know that in Tennessee, they are starting the process of reopening what was considered non-essential businesses. I want to just put the expectation out there right now. We are not going to be reopening our offices for non-essential activity for the foreseeable future. So if you are currently working from home as a non-essential administrative employee like myself, you're going to continue to do that for the foreseeable future. Only essential activities are going to be happening in our offices, just like they have been. They've been continuing. Our nurses here in DC are continuing to go into the office when they have to. But I just want, that's one way I want to manage expectations. One example of how I want to manage expectations is that we will be very careful in how we lift restrictions. When it comes to services that are suspended, we are currently analyzing those now, and we will continue to analyze what it would look like to reopen those. And I also want to say it may look different depending on the location that you're in. And so that's another piece of it. It could be faster, it could be slower. It could impact different service lines state by state. So I just want to try to work through with you and have you hear from me that we are going to manage this very carefully, with the health and safety being our top priorities of the people we support and our team members, and then our financial viability as an organization. Again, it could look different state by state. But again, I just urge you, the leadership team is in contact with people that are on the ground in each state, both external to St. John's and the health departments, and internal to St. John's with our program managers, our program directors, regional directors. They're a tremendous source of information. They're a tremendous source of thinking for us and helping us map this out as we start to have that conversation. But it could be faster, could be slower, and it could impact different service lines state by state. The goal here is not just to survive, but the goal is to come out stronger as an organization if possible. And that in doing so, we set ourselves up in preparation should this pandemic kind of raise its ugly head again in the next 12 months before we have a good vaccine in place. So with that, I just want to press pause there, and I want to just open it up to any questions that might exist. So please, if you have a question, feel free to drop that into the chat box right now. That would be great. So I'll just hang tight for a second. And there's one other thing I want to talk to or have us do, but does anybody have questions? I'm going to take a quick look through the chat box. So I think Rich has put in the chat box, in case people didn't see all of this, for staff that are active but have to stay home due to diagnosis of COVID-19 or have been directed to stay home due to a test and being exposed to someone who is diagnosed. You are employees. You can use your benefit time and your insurance is not impacted. So Rich, please give me a thumbs up if I got that correct. But essentially what Rich is saying is that if you are an active staff member, but you've had to stay home due to a diagnosis of COVID-19, or you've been directed to stay home due to a test and being exposed to someone who's diagnosed, you as an employee have the ability to use your benefit time and your insurance is not impacted. Rich, there's another question. Oh, Rich is looking into that right now. So Alicia had a good question. If we do have time, if we do have to take that time off and we use our sick time for COVID testing, will we be reimbursed for that sick time back? And Rich is weighing in on that. I guess we have to do some research on that from state and federal governments around this and are looking at that path. So there's no clear path for that right now, but we are going to be doing some research on that as well. And we'll put that again up on staff updates. And if we have an answer by next Friday's town hall, we'll certainly speak to that. Lisa has a question. Should we have ID badges? Do you mean generally, Lisa, or for particular situations? I know in some scenarios we've distributed letters that outline that individuals or identify individuals as essential employees in case they get pulled over or at a stop checkpoint or something and are asked why they are traveling. And if we don't have ID badges, we can certainly get them. So okay, so we have to answer the badge question, so we'll follow up on that as well. If Lisa's still here and can kind of expound on that question a little bit more, that would be great. That'd be helpful, just to get an understanding. And also, okay. And then we've got another question. What about for people that can't work 14 days straight due to their kids? Can you still use your benefits? So if I'm interpreting that question, if you're home, if you can't work because you're providing childcare for your children, can you use your benefit time? Rich would have to weigh in again whether that's considered PTO, vacation, or sick time, or what the options are. So I'm going to let Rich tackle that question again. Whatever we don't get answered in the moment here, we will get information. We will get this up on staff updates website, which is again sjcs.org/staff updates. And then we will also follow up with that next week at the town hall. So also, Ryan, if you could just, or Sandra, be noting these questions, and I'm sure Rich is as well, but just I want to make sure that we do follow up and touch base on these next Friday at the town hall as well. And then also, if you, again, there's a lot of HR related questions, and that makes complete sense at this time. So I encourage you, if you could, if you have also an HR related question, you could go to SJCS HR at sjcs.org. You could email that to sjcshr@sjcs.org. Alex does a tremendous job monitoring that, triaging it, and then working with Ro and Rich and the state office managers to try to get you your answers quickly. We understand that those are important. That's important information, important answers that you need. So sjcshr@sjcs.org. Say that 3 times fast. All right. So now, just with the final minutes remaining, we talked a little bit about attitude last week. Today, I just want to highlight self-care, and I thought we'd do it in a light way. I'd like to know from you all, what are you going to do this weekend as a means of self-care? All right. So if you would put that in the chat box, maybe we could get some ideas from each other on things that we could be doing to take care of ourselves, to de-stress, to get ourselves in a good place, to be able to focus on our families, to be able to focus on ourselves. So if you would, please drop into the chat box what your plans are this weekend for self-care. What are you going to be doing to de-stress and to be your best self, even in the midst of this pandemic? And I can tell you what I'm doing, or one of the things I'm doing, but I'm going to wait and see a few others add to the mix. Who's going to be brave and be our first one? Ozark is awesome. So I was an early adopter to that, Beverly, and absolutely loved it. And then it was brutal because I had to wait almost a year for this last season to come out. And that is absolutely a phenomenal series. Tony, that sounds great. Glass of wine, bonfire, and 80s classic rock. That's a great combo right there. Okay, so Precious, are you going? Are we going to see a picture of this? What's going to happen? Rich, that sounds awesome. Lisa's watching Hulu. So here's what I'm doing, and this is what my wife and I and Meg have been doing this for, I guess, the last week and a half, maybe. So you have to understand, I am an enormous Marvel Avengers fanatic. Okay, so I've watched every movie I think that's come out. I absolutely love it. I would take my kids all the time to see them, and a huge fanatic. But my wife is not so much into it. Okay, but the pandemic somehow piqued her interest. I think she was looking for inspiration. And so she committed to watching the entire Marvel universe in chronological order with me. So we started, I think, last week, and we finished our 8th movie last night in order, which was Iron Man 3. And so, which is pretty cool. So there's 24, I think, of these movies. So we've got our work cut out for us, but we'll be binge watching, I would think, 2 or 3 of those this weekend. And I'll give you a report next Friday where we're at in the series. And I'm a little scared that we might have completed it by then. But anyway, we'll see where that goes. It's been awesome to watch. Otherwise, one of the things that I do is I like to ride a bike. And so I try to do that 3 or 4 times a week. We've been trying to exercise as much as possible in the midst of this. We're probably hitting 4 or 5 times a week. I think we're able to either going for a long walk or riding a bike or doing some sit-ups and push-ups. She likes doing Pilates and yoga, so she's doing that stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to stay physically active. And then I think that's really, really important. And then we're doing a Zoom Saturday night with her family, which is cool. And I'll be setting up a Zoom with my kids this weekend as well. So I think so many people have connected over Zoom, and Zoom happy hours and brunches and trivia nights have been a huge thing. And so it's just wonderful to find ways. It's cool because you can find a way in the midst of this to still feel connected. You can find a way to still feel uplifted and inspired. And there's definitely moments of heaviness. There's definitely moments of mourning. There's always the moments that are hard, right? And those can be hour to hour even. But in the midst of it, we can still find ways to connect with those we love, connect with people that build into us. We can find ways to build into others, and we can find ways to uplift those around us and be uplifted. And so I encourage you to press into that, especially during this time. I encourage you to make self-care more important now than it ever has been for you personally. This is almost like doing a New Year's resolution all over again, right? Like we apparently we weren't all doing great on them when we started January. And so now we have a new opportunity to start afresh. And so use this time, just like St. John's is going to try to use this time to come out of it better. Find one or two ways that you might be able to come out better through it. Focus on self-care. It's so critically important. So that's my encouragement to all of you. Yeah, Zoom is the bomb for sure, Wanda. Dance aerobics in your basement. That's awesome. Walking on a treadmill. Great. This is good. New air fryer recipe sounds awesome too. That's excellent. Awesome. That's cool. So I appreciate you all participating in that. Thank you for sharing those. I think some people are walking away with some good ideas there. That's awesome. Very cool. Good, good, good. So I'll hang out here for a few more minutes to 3:25 and just do what I can to answer any questions. Generally, I would say HR specific ones probably need to go more directly to Rich or the SJCS HR at sjcs.org inbox. Certainly, like, the time of year is wonderful. I mean, in the sense of it's spring, at least in some places, New York. And so we're having an opportunity to enjoy the beauty around us, which is definitely important. Although those of you that don't know Roy, or even if you do know Roy, there's a tidbit that he shares about himself and what he does to de-stress that's going to be rolling out on Champions in the Crisis on Monday. And so be sure to watch that because it's really cool. It's something that actually my wife shares in common with Roy. It's an activity they both like to do. And so we were able to connect on that in our interview. And Roy's I'll also say that Roy's in a beautiful part of the country, in an interesting part of the country in Ithaca, New York, to be able to do that. So a little bit of a teaser there for you. Be sure to watch that interview to learn a little bit more about Roy and certainly learn about the program that in Ithaca where we're helping shelter people that are homeless, helping feeding people that are hungry, and doing just such amazing work up there. So Lisa, yeah, your question about ID badges, we are not going to lose that question. We are going to follow up on that. So Rich is going to follow up on that to just get to understand kind of the context. If it's a general blanket question, should you have an ID badge? I thought we issued those to everybody. So if we haven't, that's like either my misunderstanding of our process or we need to do it. So, but either way, we will follow up with you for sure. Let's see. Ryan. That's great. That's great. Okay, good. Thank you, Cordria. Okay, thank you, Precious. So we are in the process of rolling out ID badges. It's just gone slower, and probably we've had a hiccup, certainly a setback with COVID. So we will follow up on that. But thank you, Precious. Thank you, Cordria. Ryan's too. So this is interesting. So my hair right now is getting uncomfortably long for me, and my wife has challenged me to grow it out during COVID. I've challenged her to cut it during COVID and see if she would actually do that. So you will get to see who wins that battle week to week. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Is it is getting a little longer, and it's in this uncomfortable stage. But she's kind of challenging me to keep growing it. Ryan, I'm probably not going to go for the mohawk. I'll let you do that one, but I'm challenging her to cut it. So we'll see if who breaks down, or if she breaks down. So I don't think I would do it myself. Okay, Alicia, we saw that as well, that you guys need some ID badges up there, so we'll work on that. Quarantine hair, that's right. Quarantine cut. Oh, that's cool. Lisa, great point. So she just mentioned that there are certain places that will give you a discount if you have an ID badge and are an essential worker and can prove it. So that's great. So yeah, thank you for letting us know that. And certainly we'll keep working on getting those out. My apologies for any delays. Certainly we have limitations right now. Um, Normally that's a very physical manual process. So we will work on getting that done and getting that addressed though. Well, hey, I'm going to wrap up our time here. I want to thank you all for everything that you're doing. It is a really difficult time. We are experiencing loss. We are experiencing pain. Some of you are closer to that than others, but we're sharing that as an organization. We're sharing that as our SJCS family. We are trying to be in this all together, and we are trying to do what we can to navigate our way through it. And I appreciate your willingness in the midst of this chaos to still be showing up and doing your job to the best of your ability, to be caring for those that matter most, which is the people that we support, and to be such great ambassadors and team members and encouragers through this. I can't say enough. I'll get random emails from people across the organization and just checking in. And I so appreciate that. And I just want to thank you all for the hearts that you have, for the hands that you use to care for others, and just, and for just helping us get through this together and try to the best of our ability to come out of it stronger. So stay strong, stay healthy, and be well. And thank you so very much for joining, and have a great weekend. I look forward to hearing about everybody's self-care activities and how they were next Friday when we are back together. Thank you. Have a great weekend, all, for sure. Lisa Smith, I'm looking for your question. Okay. So Rich, I don't know if you're still on, but Lisa asked a question. Ryan is going to grab that question, Lisa, in case Rich is not here, and we're going to be ending the broadcast anyway. But we see the question you asked about as a sub, working as a regular staff. I had to miss a week for COVID testing. So we will follow up with you specifically. All right. We'll make sure that Rich gets that question and is able to get an answer to you very soon. Okay. As soon as possible. So thank you for asking that. And thank you for bringing our attention back to that. Cool. Great. Thank you, Rich. Great. Rich, did you see that? Just her email address. Cool. Thank you. All right, Lisa, we'll get you taken care of and get an answer to that question. All right, everyone. Thank you all. Thanks for the engagement. Thanks for the support. We will talk again soon. Hang in there. Stay well.